we're back. Take two here. We obviously had some technical difficulty, but this is the cool thing about this cast. You know, we're all super pumped about this project, and we don't want to let the people that tuned in to watch Cagefighter down at all. They wanted to see this roundtable, this Q&A, this discussion with all of us. So hey, we're gonna give them it, right? So guys, thanks for jumping back on here. Really appreciate you taking the time to do it.
I want to ask, you know, like this, obviously, you know, you guys have now all seen the movie. What's your impression? I mean, it's one thing to be in the film, but now to have seen it up on the big screen, what's your impression?
Yeah, I was super happy with it, you know, and I purposely didn't watch it until the Canadian viewing, this viewing, because I wanted to watch it at the same time that everybody else does, and I was blown away. You know, I'd seen bits and pieces of it, and just the way that it all came together. And, you know, I've been, you know, with this thing from the ground floor, you know, and to knowing the steps that we went through to get to this stage, to see it all come together. And man, I was really proud of it, really proud of everybody that kind of pulled together to make this thing happen. And it, I don't know, I thought it looked phenomenal. I thought it really, really came together well.
Chuck, the internet's been blowing up. I mean, on Twitter, people are just sort of singing your praises. I don't know if you had a chance to look, you know, at the hashtag Cagefighter movie. But, like, how does it feel to kind of get that feedback? You know, people have been really responding to the kind of emotional performance you gave.
Oh, it's great to get that the return from the fans that thinking I'm doing a good job. I've been working at this. You know, I've been trying to act and things for a while and trying to keep getting better. So I'm glad they liked it.
And how about you, Luke? I know this is your first movie, your first proper, you know, thing sinking your teeth into. You know, and people are really responding to your performance as well. How does that feel?
Feels good. You know, it was like I said, it wasn't too far from the norm. It felt good. Like I could easily like kind of express myself. I've been in that situation, and having Chuck on the other side of it, you know, we've been together since, and he's had my back since the beginning of my career. So that comfortability was there, and I never mind giving him some shit. So it's good back and forth.
Let me get this straight, Jesse. You made Luke audition for this role? I mean, the guy's the former middleweight champion of UFC and Strikeforce. The guy's a model. Look at him, for crying out loud. I mean, you know?
You got to do your due diligence, you know? But, you know, he nailed the audition, you know, and obviously it's exciting working with, you know, some, like, he really kind of had a natural presence.
And is that why he went so hard on him when he rolled with him?
Hey.
Was that it?
That's why you injured him.
You know what it was, Chuck?
What?
Good old-fashioned banana split. Little high school wrestling action.
In fairness, I was asking for it, to be honest. You know, I was pestering you for like about a week to spar, and then, you know, yeah, I deserved it. So, Jay, I mean, you're executive producer on this. You know, you kind of talked about this in many interviews. There was one thing that I've been dying to ask you, which was, you know, when you had to make that phone call to Shane to let him know that Moxley was injured. We never kind of talked about that.
Yeah.
What was that like?
So, you know, Shane and I have a Putzlocker, you know, the producer on this movie. He and I we hit it off right from the start. You know, we were kind of buddies and had this kind of, you know, poking on each other, making fun of each other kind of relationship right off the bat. And my kind of guy, you know. So we were, you know, every time we call, we make fun of each other a little bit, and then we get down to business, you know, and start talking. And we had a conversation. We were trying to get some logistics worked out because there was other dates set for this shoot before it ended up in Regina. You know, we were shooting some portion of this in Toronto at one point. You know, we had locations locked down. We had travel set up for talent coming in. And all of a sudden, you know, he gets the infection in his arm and has to be rushed into surgery. And and we were talking about it earlier in the day, and he's like, have you talked to John? And talked to John. I was like, yeah, don't worry, everything's cool. And then maybe an hour after that, I get a phone call from John out of the blue, and he's like, man, I have some bad news for you. And he starts telling me the whole deal. And of course, obviously, health is number one. It's paramount to anything. You know, obviously, we wanted him to be healthy, and that's first and foremost. That it was a really dangerous injury that if he didn't get it taken care of right away, could have caused some serious problems. So that was first and foremost on all of our minds. But I remember I was backing out of my garage and I was driving somewhere, and I called Shane, And he answered, and I was like, "Are you sitting down?" And he goes, "You're shitting me, right?" And I was like, "No, I'm not. You're sitting down?" He's like, "Just tell me the news." And I told him, he's like, oh man, I've dealt with a lot of shit, but this might be the worst thing I've ever had to deal with. And
I remember that day.
Yeah, we got through it. I mean, and you know what? It's weird how things play out, because I think that Regina, honestly, was the perfect location. They had everything we needed. The studio there was perfect. The arena that we shot in, I think that it was kind of meant to be that we ended up in Regina.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, at that time, you know, that because initially we were talking about doing the film in London, and then it was Bucharest, and then that whole incident was kind of a big part of what led it to Regina. And, you know, at that point, Chuck, you weren't even involved in the project, and that's when I remember, you know, really vividly, Shane kind of talked about, like, you know, I want to go get Chuck Liddell. And I was like, no chance. I mean, we're going to get the Iceman, the legend, Chuck Liddell for a Cagefighter. There's no way. I mean, he's like my hero. And, you know, he kind of came at you with the script. And, like, what was that like, you know, when he first approached you with it?
Well, you know,
before he answers, it's like, wait, was I the only guy to audition for this? I'm out.
See what you did? See what you did, Jesse?
They did the script. I read it. I really liked it. But, you know, when they gave me the timing of the shooting, I was going to shoot 10 days after I had just had my second surgery in 10 days. So I was like, oh, man, I really like the script. I mean, there's a few changes I want to make for you. So I wanted to, hey, can I talk to the writer so I can help him with these changes? And then so I wound up talking. So I talked to him, and when I started talking to him, he said, well, we didn't want you for a fight. We wanted you to be a coach. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, I can do the coaching part after the surgery. So I'm like, okay, cool. So then we worked it out and, you know, made the film.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I remember those notes. I remember having that initial conversation with you, and, you know, what I loved about that was just the specificity of the notes you gave. And for me, it was so important to kind of just make it authentic.
I mean, I'm just saying, there's just little knick-knack technical things that, like, someone that's a serious fan or fighter would be like, oh, man, it's not, come on, this doesn't sound right. So, but I mean, they were really small, but I still would have bothered me if I watched the movie. So I felt like, and I liked it. I liked the movie enough. I wanted to make sure you guys, when you did make it, when I thought you were going to make it with me, that you were do still have a great script.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one thing as a director that I appreciated from all of you. And I mean, you know, is that each of you in a way kind of like had you know, notes and ideas that I felt, you know, were able to cover the wrestling side and also the MMA side. You know, same with you, Jay. I know you had some ideas about your character and the representation of the wrestling world, and I really appreciated all of your creative input on the script, even at that early stage, to make sure that it really delivered to both fan bases.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciated your openness to hearing it. I know when it's something is your baby, you know, when you've written something and you're really close to something, sometimes it's hard to kind of give up any of that. But your willingness to do that showed me that you really want, like, this was important to you to get the best possible performances out of all your actors that you could. And when we talked about casting John Moxley as the lead in this, I said to you, I was like, look, the words on this page are fine. They're great. I said, but I'm telling you, if you just give this guy some direction and let him go, he'll deliver you something that's better than anything you could write down on a piece of paper. Trust me. And I was like, if you need to get the actual words just for, you know, just so you have them, that's fine. But I really think you should let him go here and ad lib a little bit. And I think he just knocked it out of the park.
When your agent reached out with the audition, it was kind of like we had a lot of people kind of you know, audition for the role, but it just became a unanimous thing. And our producer Sarah was just like, that's the guy. I think it was kind of a no-brainer. I mean, it was a really pivotal role. Obviously, with Reiss leaving Marcus, it was such a crucial character to, you know, in big shoes to step in, and we just felt like you were the guy, you know. And I'm so glad that you ended up stepping into that role and playing that part.
You know, it is fun. Obviously, hearing Chuck was in it, and then you got two world champions on one side of the spectrum and two on the other. And it's a real life story. There's been a lot of fight movies, but there's never been one that brings that story, which is a true story about wrestling entering fighting. and vice versa. So
yeah, it's very much a relevant topic to what's really going on right now in these two worlds of wrestling and MMA. We know we've seen, prominent, pro wrestlers like Brock Lesnar, Bobby Lashley, CM Punk. We've seen now recently Jake Hager going into Bellator, crossing over into MMA and even MMA fighters coming. We saw Ronda Rousey coming over to WWE. We see other has made a name for himself in NXT. So we've actually, we've seen some successful MMA fighters make that jump into pro wrestling as well. And, I've always personally said, like, look, this is the same tree, different branches, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's about going out there and entertaining your fans. And, I think that regardless of whether it's MMA or pro wrestling, the audience has to have an emotional connection to you as either a fighter or as a wrestler. They want to care about you to the sense where they hate you so much, they want to see you lose. They love you so much, they want to see you win. And I think that, in my opinion, if they don't care about you at all, silence is the enemy of any form of entertainment, in my opinion. So, I think that I think both sides of this were represented really well in this movie, in MMA and wrestling. I thought you kind of had the best of both. And like I said, I don't think that Chuck or Luke, being at the level they are at in MMA, would have attached himself to this if they didn't believe in it and didn't think the script was good. And I know the same with John and myself.
Absolutely. And I mean, Luke, having done it now, done your first movie, you got the acting, you had a taste of it. Is it something that, like, obviously with your role of Tony Gunn, there was some parallels to your own life. Is this something that you could see yourself doing further, doing another project?
You trying to say I'm a dick or what?
No.
Yeah.
I don't think Tony Gunn's a dick. I love the character, so I don't see them as dick,
Tony's kind of a dick, yeah.
Well, but you would say that, Chuck, because he took Reiss away from you, so you would say that.
Chuck was just eyeing me down, checking my hand wraps and everything. The whole scene was just
yeah.
It was a great experience. Obviously, having everybody to work with, I can't say it's always going to be like that, but I'll be open to do it again. I'm sure it's like, I do love fighting, and I don't want that, back in the day, but like, you got to get away for a bit to kind of refuel that fire. So, I'd definitely be in it.
So, guys, I mean, one question I would love to ask you, and obviously I wear the wearing the director's hat, it's sometimes hard to see, but you both, for all three of you, like, what you having watched the film, what do you think of the fights, in terms of the authenticity?
Yeah, I thought they came out really well. I was a little nervous because I knew we weren't able to do some of the stuff because of Alex's injury at the end. But I thought everything got put together well, and then the fights turned out really good. Yeah,
that's the same thing. I was like being there cage side, watching Alex try to like man up and just suck it up and bite down and get through that. It was hard to watch, and you're unsure of how it's going to come out. But I mean, I thought it was great. Can we talk about Jesse's cameo? This dirty Peter that comes in. You saw the end of this movie, please. Like, is there any testing? What is it? Is this product?
You want to know something funny? That was the first scene of the movie that we shot. Like, I was gonna put myself in a cameo, but then the very first scene that we shot was my cameo, and I was like, oh my god, I was thinking about a million different things, and I had to deal with the stress of being in the film as well.
Couldn't you at least wear like a tap-out shirt or something? Like, come on, man.
I wanted to say something so bad, just like that.
Any critique on my performance? You
say something.
Yeah, act like you deserve to be there. I thought the performances, I thought the fights were I thought the fights came off great as well. And, from the pro wrestling perspective, I thought it was really cool how it really kind of showed the wrestler was the pro wrestler was a little bit out of his element in the first fight. And they talked about, with the pundits and those sorts of things, that he had heavy hands and he had an amateur boxing background and these sorts of things. And, you hate to use the term lucky punch in a fight because it's a fight, right? You're throwing punches, but it's, it shows you that if your mental preparation isn't there, anything, can happen at any time. So I did appreciate the realism of that. And going on to Alex's injury, he had a gruesome groin injury, you know, at the end of this fight.
Yeah.
And you work that into the whole story. And, you know, these Chuck and Luke both know this from years of training, and they probably didn't even go into all of their fights healthy. And I know from my years of being on the road, you know, you're out there and you're banged up and you're hurt, and you just go. It's your nature. It's what you do. You just, you know, you bite down and you grit your teeth and you get through it. That's what you do, and that's what Alex did here. So I thought it was really impressive.
Oh, cool. That's really great to hear.
I'm going out of any fight with that kind of injury.
What's that?
Said with that injury, I would have checked out a long time ago. In the movie,
Yeah.
Another big scene in the movie that a lot of people on Twitter have been talking about is the press conference, and all of you in different ways have been at press conferences. Was just curious what you thought of that one.
Performance in the press conference was outstanding. Was that, you wrote that all? or was that,
I would like to say that I did, but no, I didn't. To be honest with you, I didn't write a word of that. It was all improv.
That was great. I was just trying not to laugh sometimes. I think I'm supposed to be mad when he's saying, you know, I was like, okay. He was good. It was funny.
Cool. Did it feel like a natural press conference in a way? Like,
no, that's what I was saying. Like it truly felt like a countdown show at times. And then when the fights came in, it was different. It's not what I expected, and but it was awesome. Honestly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I thought adding the pundits into it, as far as the build-up of the fight, really added something to it, you know, as well as the press conference. And, you know, like Luke said, it was kind of like one of those countdown shows with the fights happening, and it was, you know, this whole build-up to both the fights. And I just thought that the way that it was pieced together was top-notch.
Guys, we spent a considerable amount of time in Regina, Saskatchewan. What's your highlight memory? Jay, why don't we start with you? Yeah,
I mean, I wasn't there for as long as you guys were. I was only in for like 4 or 5 days, but you know, just to me, it's about the camaraderie. Like, I just like, you know, after a hard day of work, like getting back to the hotel, having some dinner and a few drinks and hanging out, and just kind of recapping and just, you know, getting to know people and having those conversations. To me, I don't know, that's what it's all about. I just love the camaraderie that just reminds me of that real kind of like locker room thing that you miss when you're an athlete and you retire, you know? So that's kind of what I appreciated about the whole experience. And obviously, you know, Regina's a great city. You know, salt of the earth people there, just the best. So anytime we get to go there, it's a real treat.
How about you, Luke?
I mean, honestly, there's not, like, I mean, what do you miss the most in COVID? It's like having an eclectic crew of people to feed off and have a nice dinner, get served, and exchange stories with professionals from different worlds. It's like there's not a lot of things that really like can match that. So the dinners and meeting everybody from all walks of life, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure, absolute pleasure. The best dinner, although, was just me and Chuck walking over. They had closed the restaurant, and it's like 20 minutes past. All the chefs leave, but we pound on the door. The waiter comes out, and there's like the chairs are all up, and he's like, "Oh no!" He goes into the back and cooks us like filet mignons and just serves us wine, and it just laid out the gauntlet. It was pretty unreal.
Yeah, that was awesome. And the guy, he's like, it's his restaurant, you know, his family's restaurant. He's like, well, the cooks are gone, but if you don't mind me cooking for you, I can make anything you want. I'm like, no complaints here, man. Hey, the name of that steakhouse is The Diplomat. The place is awesome. Yeah, if you're ever in Regina, check it out, everybody. But yeah, it was
history then. Stay on,
guys. We've got a movie under our belt. You know, that's really hard to do, especially under these times. But that's something to celebrate. What's next for you all? Luke, we'll start with you. What's next on the horizon for Luke Rockhold?
Well, I've taken the time out of a good friend's birthday party to be here, so my drink's empty. I'm gonna go fill that up and rejoin. But I just had shoulder surgery, so I'm getting healthy. Got back on the golf course today, was amazing. It's like, you know, I'm on the right track, and I definitely want to get back in there and reprove myself and get in that cage and get dirty one last time, maybe twice. Maybe.
Nice.
For me, you know, just kind of working out, get back in shape, and next thing I got on the books, I'm coming out to September. I'll be out, and hopefully everything works out. I'll be out in the UK doing a little a tour out there. If anyone's interested, it's kongevents.co.uk. Check it out. Check out the website, and you can get all the details.
Jay?
Yeah, I got nothing going on, man. Cagefighter was it. Now it's over. I'm just gonna sit here and drink my wine, eat my Cheez-Its. I'm gonna relax for a little bit. You know, I'm retired from the ring, so that's about it. You know, I'm just gonna relax and kind of wait out the rest of this quarantine, and then hopefully life gets back to normal here. And, you know, keep moving forward. But all right, guys. And that being said, look, this movie should have died 1,000 times. And, you know, look, as an executive producer, I'd like to take a lot of the credit for this, but look, it wasn't me that got elbows deep here. It was Sarah, it was Shane that kept this thing alive, along with Sarah's investors. So without them, you know, we really couldn't have got this to where we're at today. So really, you know, really thankful for that. You know, as the lone Canadian on here, I feel like I should kind of wrap this up and thank everybody for joining us here today. Really appreciate your support on this movie. We're all very proud of it. Thanks for watching it. Thanks to Fight TV. And Chuck, Luke, you guys were amazing. And thanks for bringing your credibility and your talent to this film. Really appreciate it. And thanks for taking the time to do this with us tonight too.
Thank you. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone.